How to write a video script for YouTube for entrepreneurs. If you are trying to grow a YouTube channel or actually start doing YouTube videos, I'm gonna give you in this video my 4-part framework for how I actually go and create these videos. Let's dive in. So the only reason I actually started publishing on YouTube a few years ago was because we were publishing too many platforms, I should say. We were doing 17 platforms. I had tied together 5 separate agencies. I was spending 15 to 20 grand a month on content. And what we were doing is I was taking a single video and then we were pulling the audio and then we were transcribing it for a blog and repurposing. But the problem was that by the time we got down to the 17th platform, it was way too watered down and not effective. So I don't do that anymore. So I started working with Marley Jax, who you guys, a lot of you know as a YouTube expert. And this is about 2 years ago. She 10x'd our channel. Literally, the watch time actually, we say that phrase, it actually 10x'd our views and our watches and the actual watch time. And then again, recently she 10x'd it again. So what I'm gonna give you guys, I don't know tons about YouTube, I really don't. But what I do make sure I control is what I say. So I can't say a lot about the YouTube platform and all the algorithms and stuff like that, but in this video, I am gonna walk through a 4-part formula for how I come up with the scripts and what I say. Now let's dive in. All right, so I used to do a lot of backpacking. Don't worry, this relates. I did a lot of backpacking when I grew up in Colorado, and we were on this 3-week backpacking trip, and there was this specific moment that was actually kind of scary for us. We went across the Continental Divide, and I remember, I think it was towards the end of the entire trip, we were supposed to go to this river, and we were planning this, you got to refill water. And so we had these water filters, and we were drinking out of rivers and streams the whole time, and it was a lot. 3 weeks is a long time outside like that. And I go out, and we're getting to this river, and we're supposed to refill our water there. Well, we get to this river, and we're way above, we're super high towards tree line, so there's not a lot of oxygen for trees to even live. The river was dried up. There was no water there, and it was actually kind of a dangerous situation because we had no water. And so the existing water that we had left, we kind of combined it and we rationed it for the next little while. Now, what we did not do was stand in the riverbed, it was bone dry, and take a shovel and start digging, right? Now, eventually we probably would have hit water, but that's really ineffective. We simply found another river. Does that make sense? And we just waded out and went to another river. Now, what does this have to do with YouTube and how I structure content? You have to know that one of the reasons why Marley Jax 10x'd our stuff so much, and one of the reasons why this new model has worked so well, is because we find existing rivers to stand in, okay? The way I was doing content ahead of time before all this was I would sit down and I would just riff. And I was just like, this is a cool business lesson, and it was. But I wasn't standing in the middle of a river, meaning no one was looking for the stuff I was talking about. So the very first step you want to do is you want to be able to make sure that you stand in front of titles that are already hot. Stand in front of search terms that already have traffic. Because the big facade is that you create traffic. Guys, you do not create traffic on the internet. You stand in front of existing traffic. Traffic is already a moving thing. And so what you want to, just like a river, right? So what you want to do is you want to think about the type of content that you create. Don't create content by taking out a shovel and going, there's water here eventually. That sucks. I did that for several years. I think I put out probably 300 or 400 podcast episodes, hundreds of YouTube videos before realizing this very simple principle. Do not just sit there and think to yourself, I'm going to hit water eventually. Just find another river. And one of the ways that we do that is by choosing our title and what we actually want to call each video with a lot of methodology. And so what we've done is we found out really cool ways to sit there and figure out, okay, this is what people are searching for. Now you can do this yourself in there's a lot of tools you can use on this thing, okay? Just look up any keyword research tool. There you go. You can even go to Google and just type in whatever your business industry is. Let's say you work in the medical industry, or let's say you work in the real estate, right? You can go, just type in the word real estate and see all of the suggested search terms that Google starts to pop up, right? Those are things that people are looking for. What if you made a video or a piece of content titled exactly what it is that people are typing in? The chances of you being found are very high because you're standing in an existing river. Does that make sense? That's what we're gonna do first off with these titles. That piece right there 10x'd a ton of our stuff, okay? We literally were just coming up with the titles wrong. I would do it like this. Super cool episode, lots of awesome lessons. And then they'd be like, what do you wanna call it? And I'd be like, call it 3 big mistakes I made last week. And you know what I mean? Like no one would know to look up that. Like, and so because of that, all this content and this huge content machine I created, I mean, it was good, but it's not nearly as effective as it could be. All right, step number 2 here. What we're gonna do is we are going to find how someone can have success with your title. So let's do a little bit of an example here. Let's say that the title of your video was, let's go back to real estate for some reason. Just randomly, let's say, hey, how to find the first house to buy in real estate. I have no idea if that's a search term. I'm just bringing it up. So I would put how to find the first house to purchase for real estate. And I would put that right here as my title. And then what I want to do is part 2 with this. This is what I actually do before I go and I stand up here, okay? Look at this, that's the mess. I have the title and then I think through this next piece. I think through what are the 3 to 5 steps it takes to do the topic. Does that make sense? So I would go something like this. I would go, real estate. I'll be like, step number 1, you're going to, I don't know, I'm not really in real estate, okay? Okay, step number 1, I'm gonna go in and I'm going to do this. And then I have to step number 2, do that. And then step number 3, I need to do this. And I just think through 3 to 5 main topics, and I think of them like stepping stones, if you wanna go back to the river analogy. What are the 3 steps I could take to get across that river, right? Oh, so first you're gonna want to, and then this, and one of the ways to do this is by purely just logic, by saying it, step 1, 2, and 3. Another way to do it though is to think about 3 different principles that could just help them get this outcome. So they don't always need to be sequential, but that's literally the next piece I think through. That piece can take a while per each of the videos. What's the first one? What's the second one? What's the third one? Now, if you are really an expert in what you do, and you're like, man, I really am I'm gonna go on YouTube and I'm gonna crush it. I'm gonna make content on other platforms. I'm gonna crush it. This is not hard, right? If you ask me, Steven, how to build a sales funnel. Let's say that was my title. How to build a sales funnel. I'd be like, well, step number 1, you need to have an offer. Then you need to have a message. Then here's some funnel strategies. Build the actual funnel itself. So this piece can be really simple. Before I show you the last 2 things I do to each of my videos and my scripts to make sure that they're as awesome as possible. Hey guys, hit the subscribe button. Please please share this. The first time someone ever told me I need to publish daily, I was like, no, I am never gonna do that. I'm way too shy, but it's changed my life. And so I'd like to know in the comments down below, how many of you have decided to start publishing and what has it done for your financial life? Step number 3, all right, shortly after I started publishing a lot, I was getting a lot more stage time and I was getting asked to speak at different events. There's a guy that asked me, I remember this super clearly, he said, Steven, please remove the stories from all of your content. He's like, I'm so sick of listening to a story to get to the gold nugget. You literally should just do the gold nugget. And that got in my head. In fact, I wasn't YouTubing yet. I was straight podcast. And that got in my head. And so the next 5 episodes, I gutted all story. And so I went straight nugget. And I was like, that's gonna be gold because it's nothing but straight gold. Everyone's gonna oh my gosh. And what's funny is the exact opposite. It was so to the point that no one could digest it. And so what's fascinating about that, you have to understand the reason you tell story, which is the third piece here, okay? You tell story because story wraps the gold nugget in a digestible way for the brain. And so if you go and you say, hey, nugget, 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 and don't wrap in story, it's actually harder for them to remember it. Funny enough, most of the lessons, big epiphany lessons you've had in your life that have really transformed your life, you remember it because of what was happening, because of the story, okay? You don't remember just the principle. That's very, very rare. Our brains need the story to digest it. So this is what I do. I go in and once I have thing to do the outcome 1, 2, and 3, this is my symbol for it. I don't know. Every time I put an S with a box, it means I need a story. All right, and so I just think through a brief little story, and you notice that I just did it to you right there. What I just said, it was me doing this, which feels very Inceptionist, okay? But I go and I need a story for this principle. A story that sets up that principle. A story that sets up that principle, which all together helps you get that title outcome. Does that make sense? And I do that for every single podcast, every single YouTube video. That's how I set up this piece. And if you skip this, you're way less rememberable. So if someone reaches out to you and says, skip the story, just kindly invite them to go to the next episode. Don't listen to them. It'll jack you up. Part 4. The first dollar I ever made online was after I was listening to a guy named Pat Flynn, and I love Pat Flynn. He's awesome. Pat Flynn, if you watch this, by the way, I'm trying to interview him on my podcast. Anyway, so I went out and I was listening to Pat Flynn, and I made my first dollar using affiliate marketing, and it was so exciting to me. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And I was listening to a lot of his stuff, and I remember there was a specific interview where somebody asked him, hey Pat, every time you put out a piece of content, do you always put like a call to action at the bottom? Do you always do that? And he said, absolutely, right? Not everyone's gonna see all my content, so I need to make sure that any piece of content I put out, there's always some kind of call to action in there. And I took that, I was like, that's really, really cool. And when I continued to study Russell Brunson, he said the same thing. He's like, always put a call to action on there. So you'll notice, go watch any of my other YouTube videos. You're gonna see me use roughly this framework, and then at the end, I'm always gonna do this, okay? And this is what my editor and I do. My copywriter, we do this, okay? We always put, what is our CTA? We put it right there at the bottom, and then I always underline it, and we pre-plan what our call to action is before we even start the video. So I'm gonna tell you right now, and you'll find out in just a little bit what the call to action is to this video, which this feels very Inceptionist again, but that's how it happens. Now, why do we do this? We do this because people don't know how to move unless you tell them to move. They just don't. I remember one of the first times I ever was pitching on stage. It was the first time I ever pitched at an event. I was so scared. There was like 20 people in the room. Wasn't that much. It was the first time I ever made 10 grand from stage, right? It was a little stage. It was a hotel room, and there was 20 people in there. It was someone else's event. And I stood up, and I pitched. And I remember how awkward it was once I said, so it's whatever the price is. I don't know. It's $5,000 or whatever. Until I said, all you have to do is stand up, go to the back, grab the order form, and hand it to me up front. Until I said that, nobody bought. Funniest thing. So all these people wanted it, but until I said exactly what their next steps are, nobody moved. And so there's this weird psychology, and it's very, very apparent inside of events, very, very apparent inside of events, that if you don't tell people what to do, they need permission to move, right? Think about this. You're in an event. This is the reason why, okay? And even digitally, the same thing is happening. Remember, if I'm sitting there in an event, let's say you're sitting in an event, and let's say there's 500 people in the event, and the guy's pitching, and you're like, you know what? I'd be a good fit for this. I'm gonna go buy this. But I don't wanna be rude. I'm not gonna stand up in front of 500 people. I'm gonna be that guy. All these eyes are gonna be in the back of my head, right? And you get that nervous feeling. That's the same feeling that people have when they want to take action, they just don't know how. And so with call to actions, we're very specific, and you'll hear me, go watch all my YouTube videos, you'll see at the end exactly how I word them and the way we get people to give permission to themselves to act. Hey guys, I got a cool free gift for you. Please do not click away. Over the last 3.5 years, we've done about $10 million, and it's been very, very powerful to go backwards and see what the top 3 strategies have been online. And so if you go to internetlaunchsecrets.com, the link is in the description and in the first comment, internetlaunchsecrets.com will show you what those 3 most frequent money models are that we've used on the internet so you can use them yourself. It's totally free. I'll see you there.